Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about vertebral column. Vertebral column is a part of axial skeleton. In axial skeleton, we have ribs, sternum, skull and vertebral column. All the structure except axial skeleton constitute appendicular skeleton. Now this vertebral column consists of bones which are known as vertebra. Now a typical vertebra looks like this. A typical vertebra has three structures: body, this is the body region, arc, this is the arc region, this thing is arc region, and all these structures constitute processes. Now, what are these processes? Processes are the projections. What are processes? Processes are the projection from a tissue. Okay, these are the projections of processes or outgrowth of a tissue. Now these foram there was a foramen also. This is a foramen, a whole type kind of a thing. This is known as vertebral foramen. When many vertebra joins, these foramen leads to vertebral canal through which spinal cord passes. So we can say that vertebral column protects the spinal cord. Now we will study in the next pages what is this intervertebral foramen. Let me tell you about this diagram. We have made it. This is the vertebral canal which I was telling you. When many vertebra get joined, they form this vertebral canal. Okay, now the other terms will be clear to you when we will read other pages. Now vertebral column is also known as spine. Okay, now we have a classification. Now there is one true vertebra. What is this true vertebra? True vertebra is such an vertebra which remains free throughout the life. I mean, they can move. Like they are not articulated with many bones, like Atlas. It can move, it has articulation with axis and the cervical bones. But in the lateral side, it has no articulation. It is a, if we will take it out, it will be a single bone. But what are these false vertebra? These are fused, like in sacrum bone. Many vertebrae are fused. So they are false vertebra. Okay. Now, vertebral column is divided into five regions. Like this is the neck region, which is known as cervical region. Okay, which is below the head, it is known as cervical region or neck region. After cervical region, we have this thoracic region where lungs are also present, and the thoracic region is also known as back region. After this thoracic and back region, we have lumbar region. Which region? Lumbar region, which is also known as loin region. Which region? Loin region. After the loin region, we have sacrum bone, and this and the portion or region where sacrum bone is present is known as croup region. And after croup region, what is caudal region or coccygeal region or tail region. Okay, let me revise it again for you. The first portion of the vertebral column consists of cervical bone, which is known as neck region. After cervical region, we have thoracic region, which is known as back region. After thoracic region, we have lumbar region, which is also known as loin region. After loin region, we have croup region, which constitute of sacrum bones. Then after sacrum bones, we have coccygeal bones, which constitute the tail region or caudal region. Now the number of bones in each region for a particular species remains constant, but except coccygeal bones. Certain animals have different coccygeal bone of a particular species. Like if we have a animal species, their coccygeal bone will vary. Same is the case with cervical bone of crocodile. If you will see crocodile, the cervical region of crocodile sometimes have 6 vertebra, sometimes have 7 vertebra. Okay, but generally in a species we found similar kind of vertebrae. Now let me tell you about vertebral formula. What is this vertebral formula? It is the number of bones in vertebral column. It is represented like this. Like for men we have C7, means we have 7 cervical bones. T12 means we have 12 thoracic bones. L5 means we have 5 lumbar bones, and this is some fused bones. It is how we mention vertebral formula. Now it is an important table which I have made here to let you know about the bones. Like you can see all these large ruminants, small ruminants, horse, pig, dog, poultry, all these have 7 bones except this poultry. Like fowl, Fowl have 14 cervical bones. Okay, so like L plus S is equal to 14 means their lumbar and sacrum are fused. So this is what this CTLS means. C means cervical, T means thoracic, L means lumbar, S means sacrum, C means coccygeal, and A means anticlinal. Now, as I told you earlier, some crocodile have 6 and some have 7 cervical vertebrae. So in a species, this cervical vertebrae is varying. Same is the case with coccygeal bone. Now, we will come to this section, typical vertebrae and atypical vertebrae, in such a way that I told you that a typical vertebrae has 3 parts. Which parts? Body, then we were having arc and processes. This was the body, this was the arc, and all these projections were the processes. So a typical vertebra is such a type of vertebra in which we will found these 3 structures. Those structures or those vertebra which do not have all these 3 structures are known as atypical vertebra. Now, almost all the vertebra are typical vertebra except atlas and axis. They are not typical vertebra because they deviate from the general plan of body, neural arc, and processes. Now let me come to this very beautiful diagram made by me by the help of my instrument and by the help of net. Now you can see in this diagram this portion, this rounded portion which is concave in shape. I will inshallah make you to see this vertebra in real, but up to that time you have to manage with this diagram. Like this portion, this concave region is known as body. This particular whole type of a thing, it is vertebral foramen. It is vertebral foramen. These 3 structures are neural arc. Now this horizontal one is known as pedicel or pedicle, and this vertical one is known as pedicle, and this horizontal one is known as lamina. So pedicle and lamina are the parts of neural arc, and these transverse processes, these are the transverse processes because they are present transversely to this whole bone. Now we have this dorsal spinal processes. This is the dorsal region, this is the ventral region. As I told you in the first lecture of osteology, this is the dorsal region which is close to the body, and this is the ventral region which is away from the body. So this is known as dorsal spinous process. Now we have this anterior oblique process, this and this. These are 4 processes which are known as oblique processes. Now those processes which are close to the head are known as anterior oblique processes, and those processes which are close to the back or close to the tail are known as posterior oblique processes. So this is a typical diagram of a vertebra. You need to have this particular diagram in your mind. So now you may ask me that what is this next diagram of? So it is the same diagram, but it is in the next position. It is opposite. Like there was a concave surface, this is the convex surface. It is just the reverse of this diagram. This is superior process or dorsal spinous process. These are these articular processes. Oblique processes are also known as articular processes. This is the convex surface of what? Body, as you can see here, and this is ventrally present towards the head, and this is the dorsal part, this is the ventral part of what? Transverse processes. Okay, now let me come in detail towards the body region. Body region is also known as centrum. Body region is also known as centrum. This centrum is in the form of a solid rod. This is in the form of a solid rod. Like you can see, it is a rod like of a thing. Okay, a cylindrical portion. It forms the ventral part of vertebra. As I told you, the region which is close to the body is known as dorsal, and the region which is close to the tail is known as caudal or ventral. The region which is close to the upper junction of body is known as dorsal, and the region which is close to the ground or away from the junction of the body is known as ventral. So body in a vertebra is in the ventral region. This is the ventral region. Okay, now let me come to the next point. It is telling me that anterior end is convex whereas posterior surface is concave. What it means? It means that this is the anterior surface of body and it is convex, and this is the posterior surface of body which is concave. Okay, now we have intervertebral disc. What is this intervertebral disc? When the convex and concave region of the body get adjoined, this region and this region get adjoined, between these regions we found this there is a cartilage which is known as intervertebral disc, okay, which is a disc of fibrocartilage which is present between two vertebrae. You can see in this diagram, these are the two vertebrae, and between two vertebrae we have a cartilage which is known as intervertebral cartilage. Intervertebral means between the two vertebrae. I think this is clear to you. Now let us come to the next portion, which says us that dorsal surface of body is flat and forms the floor for vertebral foramen. What does it mean? I will clear you it with diagram. It is saying that this is the dorsal portion of body because it is close to the junction. This dorsal portion makes the floor for what? What is this? This is the foramen, vertebral foramen. So the floor of vertebral foramen is the dorsal region of body. So this is what in this line I am trying to say. Now it has a central ridge for attachment of ligament on either side. Now it is telling us that in this region we are having a ridge, an elevation kind of a thing, and this elevation is used for ligaments to attach muscles, and the ligaments which are present here are known as dorsal longitudinal ligaments. This is the dorsal region, this is the longitudinal part, so dorsal longitudinal ligaments. Similar ligaments are present here inside it, which are known as ventral longitudinal ligament. And in these regions we are finding some depression, some holes which are known as grooves for vessels and nerves to provide nutrition to the bone, because bone also need nutrition, na? Let me come to the next part. Like I said you, these are some grooves, and these grooves are for blood vessels passage, so that bone also get nutrition. Both ends of body, either anterior or posterior, are attached to intervertebral fibrocartilage. It means that this region and this region both are joined with other vertebrae via fibrocartilage, intervertebral fibrocartilage. Now ventral surface of body develops spines for the muscular attachment. It is telling us that this is the ventral portion of body, and this ventral portion of body develops some spines, some elevation through which ligaments and other muscles get joined, okay. Now let me come to the neural arc. This is the second most important thing. This is another good diagram which I will clear when I will tell you all three parts, then I will come to this part. Now let us study about what is neural arc. So it is present in the superior surface of body. Along with body it forms a bony ring known as vertebral foramen. It is telling us that it is present in the superior surface of body. So it is the superior surface of body and it is the inferior surface of body. So in the superior surface of body we are finding these three things, 1, 2 and this 3, okay. So this is the neural arc, and this neural arc along with body is forming this hole is known as foramen. Which foramen? Vertebral foramen. Now it is telling us each half of a neural arc is composed of pedicel and lamina. Like vertical part is pedicel and horizontal part is lamina. This is the vertical part of, if we tell, this is the half part of a neural arc. So in this half part, this part is known as pedicel, and this is the vertical part, and this part which is horizontal of neural arc is known as lamina. This is pedicel and this is lamina, okay. I think it is clear to you. Now the anterior and posterior edge of pedicel possess notch which are known as anterior and posterior vertebral notch. So this is our pedicel and this is having a depression, and this depression is known as notch. In the anterior side we can find the superior vertebral notch, and in the posterior side we can find the inferior vertebral notch. You know, when two bones get joined, these notches form a foramen type of a thing which is known as intervertebral foramen, which I was reluctant to told you in this section. Now I think I am damn sure now it is clear to you. What is intervertebral foramen? Intervertebral foramen is formed by the notches of neural arc in the pedicel region, and the vertebral foramen or vertebral canal is made by this foramen which is present in the superior region of body, okay. Now the two notches which are formed by the what pedicle region, when they get joined via adjacent vertebra together, they form the intervertebral foramen, as I discussed, which give passage to vessels and spinal nerves. That means spinal nerves and other vessels enter or leave through these intervertebral foramens. Okay, now the third one is process. What process means? It is an outgrowth or projection of a tissue from a large body. So if we, this is a large body, through these large body we can see these projections. These projections are known as what? Processes. Now we have to study a lot of processes. We have to study here 5 processes. Now let me tell you about the first process, that is dorsal spinous process. What is this dorsal spinous process? It is a single and non-articular process which projects from the middle of dorsal aspect of neural arc. This is the neural arc, okay, and this is the dorsal region of neural arc. From this dorsal region of neural arc we can see a non-articulating means it doesn't get joined with any other vertebra. So this non-articular part which is single is known as dorsal spinous process. Okay, it is well developed in thoracic region, which is also known as back region. Okay, where it is well developed in thoracic region. Now let me come to the transverse process. Transverse process are 2 in number for each vertebra, which are present on either side of body, and they are more prominent in lumbar region. You can see these are the transverse vertebra. These are the transverse vertebra which are 2 in number, and they also do not articulate with any other bone. Only one articulate, and that is oblique process. Due to their articulation with other bones, they are also known as articular processes. Now these oblique processes or articular processes are 4 in number, 2 on posterior side and 2 on anterior side. You may get confused, but let me clear to you this. This is the dorsal spinous process. This is here mentioned. It is another type of bone. So this is dorsal spinous process. This is the structure of vertebra in the vertical section, so that you may get clear about the oblique process. This process, which is close to the head, is known as anterior oblique process or superior articular process, and this process which is towards the tail is known as posterior oblique process or posterior articular process. I think it is clear to you now. Now the articular surface of anterior oblique process is directed towards upwards and vice versa. This is the anterior articular process. This is its articular surface. This is towards the up. It is upwards, and the articular surface of this posterior articular process is downwards. It is downwards. So the anterior portion of oblique process which is articulating in nature, it is upwards, and the articular surface of posterior oblique process is downwards. Now the non-articular region of the process give attachment to muscles and ligaments. You can see there are certain regions in the oblique processes which are non-articular. That means they do not get joined with other bones. And at these positions you may find muscles and ligaments. Okay. Now there is a joint between the preceding and the next vertebra via these oblique processes. When one oblique process join with the other oblique process, it forms the facet joint, which is a type of synovial joint. I have shown here. This is the synovial joint between this particular facet or particular oblique processes, and the joint between two vertebra via body, convex and concave, they form the fibrous joint. Now here the definition is mentioned: the articular surface on one oblique process is overlapped by articular surface of opposite oblique process of preceding vertebra to form a synovial joint, which is known as facet joint. Now the oblique process form diarthrodial joint. Diarthrodial is a type of synovial joint. Okay, and it prevent undesirable movement. To preserve the vertebra or vertebral column from undesirable movement, these oblique processes help a lot. Now we have 2 additional processes to learn: mammillary processes and accessory processes. The mammillary processes are those processes which are situated between transverse and anterior oblique processes. See, in the upward region or the oblique processes which are towards head are known as anterior oblique processes. The process which is between transverse and anterior oblique process is known as mammillary process. Like this process. It is present between transverse and anterior oblique process, so it is known as mammillary process. And the process which is situated between transverse and posterior oblique process, it is known as accessory process. Like you can see here, this is present between transverse and posterior oblique process, so it is known as accessory processes. Let me come to the final diagram which I told you I will come. So this is the dorsal spinous process or spinous process. This color from brinjal is lamina, a part of neural arc. This greenish region is pedicel, also a part of neural arc. This reddish region is transverse processes, and these greenish region are superior articular processes or oblique articular processes. And same is the process here also, which is not mentioned here because it is a frontal diagram of this, and this is the body. Okay, so this was all about the vertebral column. In the upcoming videos we will study more about it. Thanks.